Have you ever stopped to think how your parenting style is impacting your child? You might want to stop and think whether or not your parenting style is actually supporting your child's needs or if it might be hindering their development. In this video, we're going to talk about 5 parenting approaches that are very common for most parents to adopt one of these or a combination of them. Understanding the pros and cons to these parenting styles is going to help you to determine if this is the right fit for your child and helping them to develop and thrive. I'm Lisa, a child behavior expert and a parent coach. I have over a decade of experience as a pediatric occupational therapist. My mission on this channel is to share with parents like yourself all the tips and resources that I have gained from my experience working as a therapist. I know parenting isn't a one-size-fits-all because every child is different. Whether your child is on the spectrum, has ADHD, or various other challenges, the way we parent them really matters. We each bring our own experience, beliefs, and attitudes into our parenting. But how do we know if these are going to serve our kids for the better? Because the way we parent is going to determine whether or not our children are going to build that self-confidence, self-worth, self-esteem, and their overall mental health. So it's so important that we tap into the right type of style that's going to fit their needs. When our children act out with challenging behaviors, and we approach these challenges with various different approaches, maybe it's with a lot of authority or it's with a very strong hand. And so this might cause some resistance, defiance, and you can see that the interaction that you have with your child is a back and forth battle. It's not really getting you anywhere. You can tell that your discipline is not effective with them. This is a sign that your parenting style is not conducive to how your child is wired and what it is that they need to be developing in a positive and meaningful way. And when we continue to use parenting approaches that just don't work, they're not helping our child learn and grow, we often see more challenging behaviors arise. This causes a lot of tension within families if parenting approaches are not changed accordingly. But the good news is, there's always time and there's always ways to change how we approach our children. Now let's explore the 5 main parenting styles. The first is authoritarian. Parents with this approach use a more strict and controlling type of style when parenting their children. They set very high expectations academically, with extracurriculars, and so kids who are raised in an authoritarian household often are very high achievers. But with these high expectations, there's often very little flexibility in this parenting style because parents want their kids to achieve. If they do not follow certain rules, then children are often left being disciplined quite harshly. There's a lot of punishments. And parents with this style often don't connect well with their children emotionally. So these kids grow up feeling that their emotions don't matter because they are not heard. Parents don't listen to how it is that they're feeling. And this can often stifle them from an emotional standpoint. Kids who grow up in an authoritarian household often suppress their emotions, and it comes up later on in life, where they start to struggle in different areas, like in the relationships they're trying to form. A lot of them struggle with attachment, often developing either an anxious or avoidant attachment style. And so, yes, on one hand, there's a lot of high achievement, but on the other hand, from an emotional standpoint, kids who grow up with this feel unheard and often struggle from mental health challenges. The next is permissive. Now, I like to think of it as almost the opposite end of the spectrum of compared to an authoritarian approach. So parents with a permissive approach, they come off more warm. They are really high in their emotional nurturing with their kids, and they can be very lenient in the way they parent. So they let their kids do what they want. They let them play way late in the night, and they don't set those boundaries for them. They let them stay up late, and if that means they're going to wake up late, well, there really aren't any rules and there really aren't any punishments. With few boundaries and expectations, Kids who grow up with permissive parents often struggle to follow rules outside of the home. They start to think that they run the show, that nothing applies to them in terms of rules, and this can get them into quite a lot of trouble. They also don't set high expectations for themselves. So we often see kids not really pushing themselves, and when they get into their adult years, they are struggling to hold down jobs because they don't have a sense of responsibility. They never were given proper boundaries. And this becomes problematic when they have to learn how to be in the real world and independent. The authoritative approach takes aspects of the authoritarian approach and the permissive approach. From the authoritarian side, they take the high expectations. They set high standards for their children. They set boundaries so that the children know what they are allowed to do and how far they can go. And this teaches kids parameters of what is an expected behavior from them. And it doesn't give them this free range to just do whatever they want. Parents with authoritative parenting styles, they set firm boundaries in a loving way. They care about their child's emotions. They respect them by listening to how it is that they're feeling. But at the same time, they still set firm boundaries and consequences to their actions if they don't follow through with what they were being told. The fourth parenting style is the neglectful parent. This often happens in families where one or both parents are working and they have very high demand jobs where they can't be there. So they're not able to be present and be attuned with their children. These children often feel neglected and they are just given free range to figure things out for themselves. These children grow up feeling like they had to be independent early on, but they never had a real support system for them. So they struggle emotionally. They struggle with finding the right attachment figure. They struggle with making attachments, strong attachments in relationships with friends, in romantic relationships. And so in a neglectful family, I mean, personally, I do not see any positive aspects to neglectful parenting because we are not giving our children what it is that they need, which is attention and love and connection. Then we see the totally other end of the spectrum, which is the over-involved, or also known as the helicopter parents. These are the parents that are always there checking in with their child, making sure they did their homework, did they pack their lunch, did they do this, did they do that, and they're just always there making sure that their child is being taken care of. With this type of parenting, it's the opposite of neglect. It's constant presence, but it can be over stifling for kids when they have parents who helicopter over their every move. We see kids with helicopter parents become very dependent because they've never been taught how to do things for themselves. They lack basic skills. Thus, it makes it really hard for them as they get older to become independent and detach from their parents. The idea of being a helicopter parent, most of these parents do it with good intention. It's because they care for their child. But what I've seen is that many parents who do this often are coming from a place of personal trauma because they do not know how to let go of control. They want to make sure that their child is always safe, is always taken care of, and allowing their child to learn how to do things for themselves and let go, let them make mistakes is something really difficult for them to let their child experience. Another reason for helicopter parenting is when you have a child who really struggles with getting things done and you feel like when you're not there, your child doesn't get anything done. And so then you feel like you have to compensate for that. And so then you're always behind them, always texting them to make sure that they didn't forget this and that they're going to go to this appointment, that they didn't forget to study for their test. And parents, again, these parents mean well, but it becomes a dependent pattern where your child starts to rely on you for every little thing. And so Finding a middle ground, finding a balance is really important in helping your child to be high achieving, to be confident, to build self esteem, and to build their independence. And yes, there are certain parenting styles that may be a no brainer for you because you grew up in that and you think this is the way I need to parent my child because it worked for me. But the thing is, your parenting style that you might be bringing into raising your child right now might not work out for them because of the way that they're wired and the way that they need certain things. Our kids have different strengths from yourself. They also have different challenges from yourself. And so what parenting style might work for yourself may not work for your child. The same goes as if you have multiple children. I've heard this many times before where parents who have multiple kids, maybe you have two, three, or four kids, and you recognize that with maybe your first two kids, it was a lot easier to parent. Maybe you didn't really have to do too much, change yourself in any way. You kind of just naturally parented the way you thought you needed to parent. Then your third kid came along and you realize that none of my parenting approaches are working for my third child. And so that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with your child. It just means that this is not the right fit. And you just need to make different adjustments based off of your particular kid's needs. And so, as you can see, parenting can change between siblings, and your parenting style may not be the same as your best friend's parenting or your cousin's parenting. So, always remember that parenting is child focused and it's not a comparison game with the people around you. So, if you're wondering, well, what then is the best parenting style for my child? I've been experiencing a lot of challenging behaviors and I can feel that battle and that clash. So, what should I be doing differently? If this is something that you are experiencing, you've been thinking about, and you need a new approach, I'm happy to guide you through this new journey of yours because with my experience, I'm able to give you my perspective and help you to come up with the right strategies, the right approaches. It really comes down to things like your tone, how is your body language, how do you word certain things, how do you interact with your child, how do you behave, what's your attitude towards them. All of these different factors make a huge difference in how you're going to be able to support your child. So I hope you like this video. Remember to like and subscribe to my channel if you've been enjoying my videos, and I will see you guys on the next one.